NBCUniversal CEO Jeff Shell is leaving the company effective immediately following this investigation into inappropriate conduct. In a statement, parent company Comcast CEO Brian Roberts and President Mike Kavanaugh said, quote, "We are disappointed to share this news with you. We built this company on a culture of integrity. Nothing is more important than how we treat each other. You should count on your leaders to create a safe and respectful workplace. When our principles and policies are violated, we will always move quickly to take appropriate action, as we have done here." Meantime, David Street's taking a look, I would argue, mostly at the depth of the bench and other contenders. Linda Yaccarino, our head of advertising, has been mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a minute. I mean, listen, never easy, of course, to discuss these kinds of stories, but particularly when it's somebody that you've worked with for years, that you respect, consider, somebody who you were a friend of. But this is not some application of some new policy. This is a long-existing policy that was in place that was violated clearly by Mr. Shell. And in fact, he's even quoted in the press release talking about his regrets and obviously what was a significant lack of judgment on his part. As to all of the speculation right now about who would take over as CEO of NBCUniversal, I think people should become accustomed to saying the name Mike Kavanaugh. Everything that I have heard and that I've picked up at this point indicates that there is no rush whatsoever to appoint somebody to Mr. Shell's position. And in fact, Mike Kavanaugh, only recently elevated to the position of president at Comcast, is going to be running NBCUniversal, not on an interim basis, but on a what may end up being a longer-term time period. We're not even talking months here, perhaps, but even longer. That said, it doesn't mean that this position will remain empty or is going to be eliminated. There is certainly the possibility that at some point they do find a new CEO. But again, Mike Kavanaugh is a name that you're going to have to start to hear more often associated with NBCUniversal. He is going to be running that company. And again, it is not on an interim basis where they're immediately looking for candidates, whether internal or even external, although that does not typically happen. We fill our CFO sometimes, Kavanaugh being a perfect example at Comcast, with outsiders. But, Carl, that's kind of what I'm hearing, and I think is the bigger takeaway at this point in terms of the management of this company. No shortage of things that are going to have to be considered. Obviously, the Hulu transaction. And what seems to still be more the likelihood that Disney has to, the put is exercised and Disney buys Comcast position in Hulu, but we will wait and see. Kavanaugh already, and Brian Roberts, of course, the CEO, very much involved in that decision. That will continue to be the case, and any others that come up as well. But this is now Mike Kavanaugh's company to run. And again, I do not believe that is going to be for an interim basis.
Jim, any thoughts on this or some of the hard questions that legacy media companies are having to make? There's news out this morning from our network about the new round of Disney layoffs, maybe as many as 4,000 or several thousand as of today.
Well, look, I don't think it's ever been as important a time to have someone who has finance background running these divisions, because Peacock's losing a lot of money. Someone might have some tough decisions there. There's tough decisions involving Disney and Hulu. But I think there's also, it's not existential. We talk about this, David, that that this industry needs to be able to consolidate. And yet at the same time, the Attorney General for antitrust is against any sort of consolidation. So I think that you need a finance person just to figure out how to not lose a lot of money in some divisions that are very ad challenged or subscription challenged, so others that could shine. I mean, David, our theme park, yes, I work for Comcast. Our theme park business makes a fortune. I would love to see that more emphasized. All we ever talk about is entertainment. How about something that's doing incredibly well and that I think can shine because Kavanaugh understands finance? I think it matters more than ever.
Yeah, well, theme parks, obviously, as you point out, a very important component of the overall growth at NBCUniversal. I can remember, of course, when the deal with GE was originally done, it was an asterisk. It was not really considered a growth engine at all, but Harry Potter changed much of that, as you say, for the parks, Jim. Yeah, listen, Kavanaugh has a long history in finance, obviously, as CFO way back. I remember him at J.P. Morgan, moving up in that organization, briefly at Carlyle, and then, of course, coming over to Comcast as CFO and president. But you're right. Now, there are many of all the division leaders who will then report into him. They're running those things. I don't know what his ability to pick a hit movie is, Carl, or not. But that would not seem to be the focus at this point, as Jim says. Financial discipline is an important component of these businesses right now.
Yeah, one reason Wolf today takes Disney to 147 on the prospect of getting some fiscal discipline and then benefiting from it on the back half.